We're the Gear Guys, and we believe the most amazing engineering is found right in your pocket or on your kitchen counter. From the perfect seal of a screw cap to the silent power of a magnet, let's break it down.
We use it every day to write notes, print reports, or even just to wrap a gift. But have you ever really looked at this blank canvas and wondered, how does a rough, brown tree become this thin, smooth, white page? The journey is a masterclass in industrial transformation. It all starts with wood, which needs to be broken down into its basic components. This is the pulping stage. One way is mechanical pulping, where the wood is simply ground up. This method is cheaper, but it leaves in a natural glue called lignin, which makes the paper weaker and causes it to yellow over time, just like an old newspaper. The other method is chemical pulping. Here, wood chips are cooked in a chemical solution that dissolves the lignin, leaving behind pure cellulose fibers. This results in the strong, bright white paper we're used to seeing in books and printers. Once we have this mushy pulp, it's mixed with a massive amount of water to create a very thin slurry. This slurry is then poured onto a giant, fast-moving mesh screen. As water drains through the screen, a delicate mat of intertwined fibers begins to form. This wet sheet is then pressed between huge rollers to squeeze out more water before it zigzags through a series of enormous heated cylinders that dry it completely. But we're not done yet. To stop ink from bleeding and feathering when you write on it, a sizing agent, like starch, is applied to the surface. Finally, to get that perfectly smooth finish, the paper is passed through heavy, polished rollers called calendars. So, the next time you pick up a pen, remember the incredible journey the page has been on. From a solid tree to a microscopic mat of engineered fibers. What common object should we look at next? Let me know in the comments. Next up, the silent powerhouse in your pocket. This little device gives us the freedom to leave our wall sockets behind. It's not magic. It's a beautifully balanced chemical reaction happening inside this tiny, flat metal box, the lithium-ion battery. Every battery has three main parts: an anode, a cathode, and electrolyte. The anode, usually made of graphite, is the negative side. It's where lithium ions are stored. The cathode is the positive side, made of a lithium metal oxide. Separating them is a super thin plastic film called a separator, and everything is soaked in a liquid electrolyte that allows the ions to travel back and forth. When you charge your phone, an electrical current forces positive lithium ions to leave the cathode, travel through the electrolyte, and embed themselves within the graphite layers of the anode. This process stores potential energy. When you turn your phone on, the circuit is completed. Those lithium ions naturally want to return to the cathode. But here's the critical step. While the ions can pass through the separator, the electrons they left behind cannot. They are forced to travel on an external path through your phone's circuitry to meet the ions on the other side. That flow of electrons is the electricity that powers your device. But what about safety? If the separator gets damaged and the anode and cathode touch, it causes a short circuit, leading to rapid heating and a potential fire known as thermal runaway. And why does your battery's capacity fade over time? With every charge and discharge cycle, a tiny amount of lithium becomes inactive, unable to complete the journey. So, the next time your phone hits 1%, remember the microscopic, high-stakes migration of lithium ions happening inside. Now, let's talk about this marvel of engineering. We've all done it, hours after pouring in steaming liquid. You open this thermos, and your coffee is still piping hot. How it seems to defy physics. But the secret isn't magic. It's a brilliant defense against the three ways heat always tries to escape: conduction, convection, and radiation. First, conduction, which is heat transfer through direct contact. A thermos is built with two separate walls, joined only at the very top. This tiny connection point minimizes the physical bridge between the hot inner wall and the cool outer wall, drastically reducing heat loss. Next is convection, the transfer of heat through the movement of air or liquid. The solution here is the vacuum. The space between the two walls is had almost all the air sucked out of it. With no air, there's nothing to carry the heat from the inner wall to the outer wall. It's a heat transfer dead zone. Finally, there's radiation, which is heat moving as electromagnetic waves. Just like the heat you feel from the sun, the inner wall of a thermos is coated with a highly reflective, mirror-like layer. Any heat that tries to radiate away from your hot coffee is simply reflected right back into it. The same principles work in reverse for cold drinks, reflecting external heat away and keeping the cold in. So, your thermos isn't magic. It's a beautifully engineered system with a minimized contact point, a near-perfect vacuum, and a heat-reflecting mirror, all working together to conquer the laws of thermodynamics. Now, that's a brilliant bit of everyday design. It's one of the most important building materials in the world, yet we barely register its presence. Glass dotted lets light pass through perfectly, but why? And how does a pile of sand become this crystal clear sheet? The basic recipe is simple. Silica, which is just pure sand, is heated to over 1,700 degrees Celsius until it melts. But that temperature is incredibly high, so soda ash is added to lower the melting point, making it more economical. Lime is also added to make the final product stable and prevent it from dissolving in water. Now, you might have heard the myth that glass is a supercooled liquid that flows over centuries. While its atoms are randomly arranged like a liquid, it's actually an amorphous solid. At room temperature, it's for all practical purposes completely solid. But how do they make it so perfectly flat? The breakthrough was the float glass process. Molten glass is poured directly onto a huge, shallow bath of molten tin. Since glass is less dense than tin, it literally floats on top, spreading out over the perfectly level surface of the liquid metal. As this ribbon of glass moves across the tin bath, it slowly cools and solidifies into a flawless, flat sheet. But the real secret is its transparency. Light is made of photons. When a photon hits an object, its energy is either absorbed or it passes through. Glass is transparent because the energy required to excite its electrons is much higher than the energy carried by photons of visible light. So, the photons just pass straight through without being absorbed. From a beach of sand to a ribbon floating on molten metal, your window is a marvel of engineering, an invisible shield designed to let only the light pass through. Finally, let's look at the most reliable mechanical fastener you own. With one smooth motion, it transforms to separate strips of fabric into a single, secure piece. The zipper. It's a triumph of simple, brilliant engineering. Let's break down its three key components. First, you have the teeth, which are the small interlocking pieces. Each tooth has a tiny hook on one side and a hollow dimple on the other. Second are the tapes, the fabric strips that the teeth are attached to. And third is the slider, the part you pull. This is where the real magic happens. The slider is shaped like a Y. It has the channels that guide the two rows of teeth inward. When you zip up, the two separate rows of teeth enter the wide end of the Y-shaped slider. They are then funneled down into the narrow point. This forces the hook of a tooth on one side to perfectly align and lock into the dimple of the corresponding tooth on the opposite side. It's essentially a controlled collision that forms a strong mechanical bond. When you zip down, the slider moves in reverse. A small wedge inside the slider hits the interlocked teeth and smoothly forces the hook and dimple apart, separating them back into strips. Jams usually happen when a piece of the fabric tape gets caught in that narrow channel, blocking the teeth from interlocking correctly. The zipper is a hidden mechanical masterpiece, a series of perfectly timed forced collisions, all contained within that simple little slider. It's the sound of efficiency. Which of these everyday wonders was the most surprising? Tell me below. Thanks for watching.